What's up and welcome to another episode of Gizmo Slip Tech. Today we're taking a look at the 2019 Razer Blade Stealth. We're going to talk about the new features, this new design. It's a more boxy design compared to the 2018 version of the Razer Blade Stealth. And man, this thing is thin. It's very tiny, very lightweight, and very portable. But how good a performance do you get out of it, especially compared to the slightly more heavy Razer Blade 15? Obviously more expensive depending on which model the Razer Blade 15 you get. Goes up to about $3,000. This one starts at $1399 and can configure up quite a bit as well. Let's break down the specs. I've got a bunch of benchmarks for you. It's gonna be freaking epic. Let's get started. Okay, so for specs, we have the 8th gen i7-8565U. This is a quad-core processor, and it's an ultra-low voltage processor. Now, when I was benchmarking it, I was getting about 25 watts of continuous throughput and up to 40 watts in a burst. Now, this one comes with an MX150 graphics card, as well as, of course, the integrated HD graphics card. Now, the MX150 is an older offering, and I'm really looking forward to when NVIDIA launches the MX250 or whatever the next iteration of this will be, because the MX150 is very old, so know that you're kind of getting older technology in this laptop if you do decide to buy it. That said, we'll be breaking down the performance of the MX150. So this is a 13.3 inch full HD, so 1080p display with 60 Hz refresh rate, 256 gig SSD, along with a 16 gigs of dual channel memory. Now, Razer claims up to 11 hours of battery life. Now, it is possible to get 11 hours of usage out of it, maybe even a little bit more. Doing extremely light tasks, doing moderate tasks, though, you will get quite a bit lower, about 4 to 6 hours of usage, depending on what you're doing. Now, this features a single zone RGB backlit keyboard. This means that you can change the colors of the entire keyboard, but you cannot customize each individual key. Now, this thing is 0.5 inches thin, extremely thin, and also weighs very little. Now, for ports on the left side, we have a headphone mic combo port, a USB Type A, and a USB Type C. And on the right side, we have a USB Type A and a USB Type C. That means we have 4 USB ports on this bad boy, but you have to keep in mind that one of them has to be used to charge the laptop. Now, the left one can charge the laptop, but it does not charge it as fast as the right one. I found this out because I was playing games, plugged into the left one, and the battery actually went to low power mode, 10% mode, because I wasn't in the right USB-C port, so be sure to plug it into the right side for the maximum charge speed. Now, for performance, this quad-core ultra-low voltage processor actually packs quite a punch for a laptop this thin. It's not going to be nearly as powerful as the 6-core processor in the Razer Blade 15 or featured in a lot of the gaming laptops. Because it's a quad-core processor, it's not useless and actually did fairly well when rendering 4K video and of course when doing some very light games. Now, the maximum temperatures I saw on this Razer Blade Stealth is 85 degrees Celsius when doing benchmarks. Now, in typical gaming usage, I only saw about 70 degrees on the CPU and GPU, so that's really good temps. But the outside does get warm, especially on the wrist rest. It doesn't have that good of ventilation. As a matter of fact, yes, it does have some ventilation on the bottom, but not much. So don't expect this thing to be very cool when playing games. Now, the keyboard feels great. It feels like an identical copy of the Razer Blade 15 keyboard. So on an Ultrabook this thin and light, that is really nice. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind is the right side shift key on the keyboard is placed very awkwardly on the right side of the arrow keys. So if you're a right side shift user, you're gonna really notice it. I'm personally a left side shift user, so I didn't even notice it in the course of using the laptop. Now, the touchpad is very large for a laptop of this size, and it feels super smooth and is very nice to use. Now, as far as speakers go, this is a very good sounding Ultrabook. Now, of course, you can always get louder speakers or ones with more bass in a larger laptop, but for one of this size, it's about as good as you can possibly ask for. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some benchmarks for this bad boy. So here we have an overview of 5 different games that I was able to play with the Razer Blade Stealth with. Now, there's going to be some of these games that are basically unplayable and other ones that are actually very reasonable depending on the frame rate and resolution that you're playing at. Now, on some of these graphs, there's going to be 2 bars. The bigger bar is going to be the average frames per second. The smaller bar is going to be the minimum 1% FPS. If the minimum 1% FPS is too low, it's going to result in very stuttery gameplay. So be looking out for that 1%, especially if it's very low, below 20 FPS. It's going to be very noticeable. In Fortnite at 1080p on low settings, we averaged 53 frames per second, which is actually pretty good. And the 1% low is only at 26, so there is some stuttering, but it's not too bad. In PUBG, though, at 1080p, it was very bad. Only 28 FPS average with stutters all the way down to 8 FPS. It was a little bit better than a slideshow, but it was close. I would definitely not enjoy playing PUBG this way. You might be able to get better frame rates if you really drop the resolution a lot lower. Hard to say though, because it's a very CPU bound game depending on what areas you're in. Far Cry 5 at the lowest possible settings at 720p, it managed to get 28 FPS, neither of which is particularly playable, especially since there was some stuttering, though I didn't measure it in this game. Now The Witcher 3 at 720p low settings averaged 48 FPS with a 23 FPS minimum. Now this is very playable since this is an adventure game and you're not trying to get maximum frame rates to kill other people that you're competing with. So Witcher 3 is definitely a very good game, as well as Subnautica, which managed 53 FPS with a 27 FPS minimum. Very, very smooth, enjoyable gameplay on both of those games. So as you can see based on this first graph, we're getting very good FPS in some games and extremely poor FPS in others. Now PUBG and Far Cry 5 are both very demanding games and relatively newer games came out in the last year or two. But as you can see, even The Witcher 3 can be playable if you're willing to go to a low enough resolution and low settings. But if you go back to older games like Counter-Strike Global Offensive, Dota 2, Civilization series, a whole bunch of older games are going to play really, really well. So there's going to be lots of games that you can enjoy on this laptop, hands down, without a doubt. When we had The Witcher 3 set at 1080p resolution, we managed 33 FPS on average with a low of 7. So it was very, very stuttery. I would say it's not a very ideal gaming experience. Because this is only a 13.3 inch display, playing games at 720p actually isn't that bad. Let's take a closer look at Fortnite's gaming performance. At 1080p on low at the Dusty Divot, we managed 53 FPS. Now our best situation was 720p on low and the Dusty Divot averaging 62 FPS, which is really good because this is only a 60 hertz display, so we're actually hitting the maximum refresh rate on this display. Of course, there is some dips down to 31 FPS though, so it's not perfectly smooth, but it is very, very playable. And you can see that even in Tilted Towers, we're still getting very respectable frame rates at 1080p hitting 49 and at 720p hitting 57. So this is definitely a laptop that you can play Fortnite on and it's not a terrible experience. I think the number one competition with the Razer Blade Stealth is actually the Razer Blade 15 base model because it's the same price as this guy. So how does it stack up in some of these benchmarks? Taking a look at Far Cry 5, you can see the Razer Blade Stealth managed 20 FPS, while the Razer Blade base model managed 66 FPS, actually hitting the screen refresh rate even in a tough game like Far Cry 5. And the thing to keep in mind here is we're also on low with the Stealth and on ultra with the Razer Blade 15 base model. So there's a substantial difference in performance here. Taking a look at Fortnite, we actually managed over 200 FPS with the Razer Blade base model, while we only averaged 53 on the Razer Blade Stealth. 3D Mark Firestrike Ultra, only 861 for the Razer Blade Stealth and 2,695 for the Razer Blade base model. So we're looking at more than 3 times the potential graphical performance, if not a lot more, depending on which game you're in. Now, as far as the Cinebench R15 multi-score goes, the Razer Blade Stealth did pretty good for a quad-core processor, hitting a max of 691 at stock voltages, with a low power limit of 635. Now, when I undervolted it, I did manage to get just a slightly improved score at 644 for the undervolt score. So how does this stack up when you compare the performance of the Razer Blade Stealth versus much, much larger laptops? Well, you can see that you're losing a lot of overall performance. Now, I've got 3 other laptops to compare with the Razer Blade Stealth here. We've got the Eurocom Sky X4C. This is a very thick and beefy laptop, managed to get 1875. The Aorus X7 weighs about 7 pounds, managed to get 1400, and the Asus GL504S managed to get 1219 on average. So basically, we're looking at a dramatic difference in performance, and this is the sacrifice you have to make when you're getting an Ultrabook this thin and light. So how does that Cinebench score translate to real-life time frames here? In Adobe Premiere rendering a 4K video file, the Razer Blade Stealth managed 14 minutes and 16 seconds. The Eurocom Sky X4C, again a very thick laptop, managed to get 5 minutes and 48 seconds, and the Aorus X5 managed to get 8 minutes and 19 seconds. Now, of course, those are much larger, thicker laptops, so not as portable, but you are getting a lot better render time. So can I recommend the Razer Blade Stealth 2019? I think yes, absolutely I can. Now this thing only weighs 2.8 pounds, and if you're looking to game on an extremely lightweight, extremely portable system, this is probably about as good as you're gonna get. But if you're willing to take about 1.5 pounds more weight, you can get a Razer Blade 15 or a whole bunch of other laptops that are going to be a lot more powerful for the money. Now, the number one alternative to the Razer Blade Stealth 2019, I think, is the Asus Zenbook S13 UX392. That comes with an MX150 graphics card as well, but it has a 97% screen to body ratio. It is just a beautifully designed laptop. So I'll have links down below to both the Razer Blade Stealth 2019 and the UX392. Overall, I can definitely recommend the Razer Blade Stealth 2019 because of its extreme portability, solid overall performance for its size. So that's my review of the Razer Blade Stealth 2019. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to see more, and hit the like button if you enjoyed this review. We'll see you guys in the next one. Brandon out.